Today. Thank you for coming. I'm going to call this meeting to order. And we'll start the meeting with just a moment of reflection to reflect on today's business. Thank you. Is there any disclosure of pecuniary interest and general nature thereof? Seeing none, you can declare at any time throughout the meeting. Public participation. Members of the public are encouraged to provide the committee with their comments and questions. Presentations must be prearranged with legislative services before the agenda is released. Members of the public who wish to make a deputation about a specific agenda item at the meeting must register in advance with legislative services by 4 p.m. on the day prior to the meeting, which would be November 19th, 2024, by contacting clerk@meaford.ca or 519-538-1060, extension 1110. Presentations are limited to 10 minutes and deputations limited to 5 minutes. We're going to start the meeting off today with a presentation from Nellie on the food bank. I appreciate you doing that.
Just to give an idea as to what we want to talk about today is just who we are. I guess that could be all right. I'm so sorry. I do have a big voice. Who we are, who our visitors are. We call the people that come into the food bank, we call them our visitors rather than clients. We feel it's a little more sensitive, a little more comfortable. I'll give you a little bit of what we do. I'll tell you where we're located and what we do and how we operate. And then probably one of the biggest impacts is why we do what we do. And at the end, I'll have a time for some questions and answers, but certainly feel free to stop me as I'm going through. I certainly don't mind being interrupted partway through. So who we are a registered charity and a member of Feed Ontario and Food Banks of Canada. Feed Ontario has 139 different food banks associated with it, and we pay a yearly due to them. But what that gives us, it's a lot of representation. We also get about $5,000 worth of food from them a year. They're the ones that initiate our egg program, our milk program, and an allotment of 1,000 pounds of chicken twice a year. So it's even though we have to pay dues to be part of them, it's well worth it for us to have that. Yes.
Sorry, I didn't want to stop you early. Just quick, how long has the food bank actually been in operation in Meaford?
It started about 21 years ago at the old Legion is where it started. And now we've been in our new location for 12 years. And Food Banks of Canada, that's what Feed Ontario belongs to, and that's a nationwide organization. And they are sort of that's how the tiers go. It goes from Food Banks of Canada down to Feed Ontario and then down to us. At this point, we're in the process of becoming accredited by working towards what Food Bank of Canada says is the standards of excellence. It's a 93-page document of policies and procedure making that we are going through. And it covers everything from our floor space to rules and regulations with regards to food. For instance, Section 6 is all about how we handle food. And that just in itself is a 20-page document. So we've been working on that for about a year. We have to have it complete by the beginning of March. And then our implementation starts after that. We will get, people will come to make sure that we are following that. And once we get accredited, that will be for 5 years. And that also goes through to public health. So the two work together to make sure that we're doing things that we're supposed to be doing. We have 9 people on our board of directors. There's myself and 8 others. We do have a vice president, a secretary, treasurer, and then regular board members. And all board members, but 2 actually work in the food bank during food bank hours as well. We also have 1 part-time food bank coordinator who does our paperwork and our organizing, and we have 1 office relief person as well. Our part-time coordinator used to work about 10 hours a week, and because of how busy we are, she's probably up to about 22 or 23 hours a week because we are inundated. We also have about 50 registered volunteers. Our volunteers are sort of in 2 different groups. We have 2 groups that come on the days that we're open. So a group on Monday mornings and a group on Thursday evenings. And then we have a lot of other people that do running around for us and pick up things and do deliveries and just help out with Christmas and that type of thing. So in total, we have about 50 people who are with us. Just to give you an idea as to who our visitors are, as you can see, one of our biggest number of people who get serviced by the food bank are children. Our children, we have a lot of them. Just to give you a snippet of that, we're planning for 320 children for Christmas this year. So children are definitely our biggest factor. And yet, if you look at the chart, all the others are pretty well within the same limit. It used to be that our senior numbers were higher, but now it's kids. And that certainly touches our hearts, obviously, a little bit more so. And who supports us? All programs are supported by the generous donation from our local community. The federal government, the provincial government, we can apply for grants, but we do not get funding from them. We're very lucky. The municipal government does give us some funding, but basically all comes from within our community. Some of our big contributors are the Rotary Club of Meaford, which is where our home is in Rotary House. The municipality, the independent grocery store. The grocery store is amazing for us. We have service clubs that help us out, churches, the community gardens, and other organizations and businesses, and also individuals. And they make up the majority of our donations in the form of food, pet food, and cash donations. And to say, I didn't know how to say it any differently other than we are passionate about finding available grants. Grants are a wonderful means of getting money. But because of the number of food banks that are applying for grants these days, most grants are on 3-year cycles now. So if you get a grant at one point in time, then basically you have to wait 2 or 3 years for it to happen again, just to make sure that everything gets spread out amongst everybody. So that's sort of a change for us. It didn't used to be that way. Basically, if you got a grant for probably 10 years, if we got a grant in one area, then we were pretty sure we'd get it again the following year. And that's not happening anymore. What we do. So what our hopes are is that we can provide food and a compassionate, confident, confidential support to registered families and individuals when the need arises. So we don't have criteria as to what people's income is or what their issues in life are. If people make their way down our stairs, we always say that that's the hardest part for them. And after that, it's totally non-judgmental. And if people come in asking us for food, we provide it for them. We also provide emergency assistance as required. Through 211, we have lots of contacts as to what people can do if they need services outside of what we can provide as far as food and some find that we can sometimes give out gift cards if people are absolutely desperate for things. But we also have a close link with United Way and all the services that they provide. And we provide a way for people to get hold of them through that. We network with service agencies, local organizations, and businesses. And part of that is to promote awareness of who we are and what we are, and to support for what we do. We also have a number of outreach programs. And first of all, our biggest thing is that we provide emergency food to those in need within the municipality of Meaford. We try to keep it within the municipality, and yet if we certainly have people coming from the south or this end of Owen Sound, and we certainly have a lot of people coming from Thornbury, and we would never turn anybody away. We like to say, just because of how big the need is within Meaford, we like to say within our municipality. But we can't, if somebody makes their way down those stairs, then we certainly don't turn them away. Mhm.
Which begs the question, and I'm ignorant to know, so does Owen Sound not have its own food bank? I'm just wondering
Yes,
why
they
they
do.
would come here.
Proximity.
Okay,
And that's the only reason. They have the Salvation Army has their food bank in Owen Sound, and they are open every day versus we're only open twice a week. They're a huge organization. I forget how many families they service a month, but I think it's 12,000 a month. So it's a huge organization. With us, it's just proximity. So. And we do our Christmas hamper program. This year we're preparing for 230. So that will be 230 households that will get 2 large boxes full of food. And those are, we send out a survey every January to ask our people what they want as far as food. And we don't really survey, we just ask people what they want or what we put in the hampers that they didn't like. And so we try to make sure that we remember that's written down somewhere and it gets scheduled for the following year. This year, our hampers are absolutely stuffed full, which is amazing. We just finished packing box number 1. We'll start packing number 2 next week. And we're counting on 230 families. Last year, we had 210. We also do the Christmas Star program. Our Star program is a gift program for children. We're counting on 300 children this year that will be helping out. And we do it as a shopping model. So what happens is we call it our Star Mart. A family, let's say they have 2 children, they would get 40 minutes of shopping time, 20 minutes for each child. And the parent can come down into the Star Mart and they can choose the gifts that they want to give to their children. Every child will get a pair of brand new pajamas, socks, underwear, hats, and mitts. Young children will get 2 toys, and the older kids get hoodies, which graciously get sponsored by Rotary for us. And then they all get a gift card for Walmart with that as well. So moms and dads can go out and purchase something else on their own. As far as the hampers, all the hampers also have a gift card in them from the independents so that they can go and buy the fresh things and a turkey or a ham or a tofurkey or whatever it is that they think their families would enjoy. This year, we did back to school. We have for years done back to school backpacks. Rotary does the initial part of them by putting in getting the backpacks, or not Rotary, United Way, I'm sorry, gives us the backpacks filled with some back to school things, and we top that up. We put in a hygiene pack with that, and box of Kleenex and that type of thing. So, and this year we did it for 30 children. Last year we did it for 70. We don't know why the numbers went down this year, but we advertised the same, and the school also did backpacks for children. So I'm kind of thinking that maybe they took over some of that. And then we also administer the recreation fund for the municipality. And at the present time, that's on hold, but we're hearing that it is going to go again after January. And it's an extremely, extremely popular program. And it's amazing how many families were able to take part in that and have their children in activities to help keep them off the streets and have positive role models for them. So it really is an amazing thing for the kids. Where we're located, we are in Rotary House, which is across from the liquor store, or in the back of the liquor store, and across from the post office. So we are in the basement. We've been there for 11 years, I think, almost 12 years. And we used to use about 1/3 of the space. And now our space looks like that. We're packed full right to the gills. We don't know where we're going to put things. Come our two great big food drives that are happening on the weekend. But we find spots and little corners here and there, and it's an amazing location. First of all, it's central, which is awesome. But it's also a really good space for us. We feel very safe there, and it's more than big enough to store all the food that we have. We have administration offices. We have a kitchen. Plans at some point might be that we would like to get a commercial kitchen, but at this point, that's not in the budget. And then we have our visitor pantry, which is partially what you're looking at there. And when we operate, we are open Monday mornings from 9:30 to 11:30, and Thursday evenings from 5 to 7. And yet I get emails all the time saying from people that can't go at that time. And my heart gives out to that. So I spend a lot more time handing out food other than those two set times. But those are the times that work really well for our volunteers. And the groups that we have now say that they would prefer to be busy, real busy, rather than opening an additional day. So at this point, we're keeping it at those two times, but I do foresee that changing at some point in time. And what we do, we recognize our community has vulnerable individuals that need our assistance. Our crew that come in, our visitors that come in, come from all walks of life, and lots of people who have been coming to the food bank their whole lives, but we also have lots of new people. Our numbers have increased by 200% since 3 years ago. We used to think a month with 60 people was a lot, and now we're usually closer to 200 a month that are coming in. Our long-term goal is to offer life skills and education in hopes of promoting self-sufficiency. But it's a really tough battle for the people that have come all their lives. It's all they know. And for the new people, it's because of what's going on in the world, especially in our country right now with the price of homes and the price of groceries. It's really hitting a lot of people really hard, and we are really noticing how much our numbers have gone up because of that. And we do it because we care. We have beautiful, beautiful, beautiful volunteers that give me shivers all the time, and they're devoted and kind, and any new person that comes in, we always say the hardest part is to walk down the stairs. And once they're down those stairs, it's not hard anymore. So that's sort of it in a nutshell. I just wanted to have this picture up there. What we also do is we give out snack packs, and we give out hygiene packs, so that the snack packs go out with families every time that they come in to visit. The children get a week's worth of snacks. So they get 5 juice boxes, 5 granola bars, 5 fruit cups. And then that way they have the same snacks as everybody else does at school. And we give those out with the Christmas hampers as well. And then we also give out hygiene packs. Hygiene products are probably the thing that people buy the least of. And it's the first thing that gets let go. And yet that's, especially for teenage children, it's a really hard thing not to be clean and not to have deodorant and those types of things. We've also, the last grant that we got for menstrual products, we got almost $8,000 worth of period products, which was amazing. Obviously, they're extremely expensive. And so that's something else that is a huge thing within what we do. So that's sort of us in a nutshell. Any questions?
Start with Angela, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and through you. I actually have a few questions for
Certainly.
you. First of all, thank you for the incredible work that you do. It's so important to this community, and we know it.
You guys are so good to us.
Just made a note to do a delivery on Thursday. So,
Yeah, no,
so a few questions. So, number one, are there any types of items that you have a large need for, but aren't things that are typically donated, like Ziploc bags or toilet paper or things like that, that you wish the public knew you needed more of?
certainly. There's things like toilet paper and paper towels. There's, hygiene stuff. It's extremely expensive for us to buy. And yet, in my mind, it's so important to be able to provide that. So we do have a fairly large budget for hygiene products. And then it's the higher costing protein things like peanut butter. And I find now that peanut butter is $7 a small container. We're not getting nearly as much. We're not getting nearly as much tuna and salmon as we used to. So it's sort of those protein things that are like that we're now buying rather than them being donated.
Interesting. Thank you for that. And I was also, actually, I have two more questions, if that's all right. So secondly, do you find that you have a large need for people with special diets, gluten-free, halal, vegan, those types of things? And are you able to service those clients?
What we do is if we don't have what people need, and I would say we have a small handful. Sorry, just a second, I should have brought water. We only have a small handful. What we do is we give them gift cards. So that way we're not keeping a product that could be sitting on the shelf for 2 or 3 months. We just let them go through our pantry, take what they are able to take, and then we provide them with a gift card to pick up the other things that we don't normally have.
And my final question, with you said that you're finding places to store stuff within your facility. Within the foreseeable future, do you see the food bank as needing sort of a satellite storage space?
Yes and no. Like at Christmas time, I would say, oh my gosh, like there isn't an inch left. Like we're even having to we closed down our male washroom and so that we could cover it up and put things in there. Other times of the year, it's not nearly as crowded as it is right now. Christmas is just, first of all, for our hampers. We have 3 rooms full of hamper boxes. And once those are gone, those rooms are then like the shelves are used for regular storage. At this time of the year, we are absolutely bursting at the seams, but in the middle of the summer, you would go through and think, oh, we've got lots of space. So it really depends on the time of year.
If you do find yourself in a situation where you have way too much stuff for your space, which is a great situation to be in, please come talk to me. We have extra space in our warehouse, and we'd be
Okay,
happy to
awesome.
facilitate that for
Yeah.
you.
Very curious what your kind of annual budget is, because that is such a huge endeavor and food costs going where they are. And I'd be curious what your budget is and just how much that has increased. Like you said, over the last even since COVID,
Right
if
about,
you're willing to share.
yep, right about 230,000 a year. 60,000 just for Christmas. So for basically relying on donations from our community is amazing.
Right.
And we're very lucky. I don't have to do cartwheels down the main street or anything. People do just, maybe I shouldn't say. I think people here know that there's lots of people in need, and our numbers are just crazy.
If I may ask as well, just one other thing. So I'm going to go back to the geography because you really piqued my curiosity. One is Owen Sound has it. When you said geographically, it made more sense for them to come here. Our municipality borders Owen Sound literally at the top of the hill. So I'm just wondering why geographically they would drive all the way to Meaford as opposed to going to Owen Sound.
I would say I know of 3 families in particular that could go to Owen Sound versus us, but they've always come to us.
And does Thornbury actually have a food bank? I know.
Through BVO, what they do
Yeah.
is they have what they call their kitchen cupboard.
Yes.
And then they also supply people with gift cards for the grocery store if they need things that they don't have. They don't have refrigeration or freezer space. It's basically a small pantry, and it's filled with mostly essentials in small numbers of them. So it doesn't have a food bank per se like ours is.
Thank you.
Thanks, Rob. Anything else, Rick? No?
Nellie, certainly, again, thanks very much for the information, because it definitely is an eye opener, and it's, I don't think there's a day goes by in the news and the media that there's talk on regarding food banks and the struggles that they have. So certainly, my congratulations to the group you have,
Thank
you had in providing for the community. And it's just, again, that non-judgmental, an easy place to access. It makes all the difference in the world, I would imagine, for the
It does.
members of the community. So to you and the volunteers, thank you very much.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
Thanks, Rick. Angela?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And through you, I just have one more question for you. It's just been kind of the back of my mind. Over the last few years, have you seen an increase in the demand for the recreation fund, and how is that impacting the families that you service?
Definitely. It started, I think, either 2 years before COVID, I think. And we were given an amount at that time, and it seemed it started partway through the year. And that worked out great at that time because it wasn't a full year. And then COVID hit. So it was kind of hard to sort of be able to say, this is how much money we need. And last year it was, we certainly went over the amount, but we had money left over from the time during COVID. So we were able to manage through the whole year. This year, our funding stopped at the end of the summer. And we were basically told that it has stopped now because of how much had been spent. And it's just that kids are going out and kids are doing things. And so it's sort of like it was a brand new program. It's an amazing program for children. And there's certainly been some fallout, lots of tears, lots of very upset people, but hopefully it will be reinstated in January, and we'll be able to have people go ahead and do that. We had a large number of people who had, or how they do it is they apply for the program, they pay for the program, and then we administered the funds to pay them back. So there were a large number of people who had already paid for programs, and then we had to tell them that it wasn't covered. It was a huge challenge. Many tears on both sides, theirs and mine. But we're looking forward to us having better parameters around how it's going to work for next year so that we can plan for the whole year rather than for a portion of the year. Because families just, it kept kids off the streets. And that's, to me, that was the biggest thing. It kept so many children off the street.
Thank you. I may ask a few, Nellie. You mentioned Feed Ontario gives you $5,000. Do they give you cash? You said, or do they give you a product?
It's product.
And where does it come from?
Through Food Banks of Canada.
Mhm.
There are producers, there's chicken producers, there's milk, and so the milk marketing board, the egg board, and and we get it all through Maple Lane Farms for the chickens. So it's agreements with them across Canada. And so twice a year we get meat, and we get 60 dozen eggs a month, and we get 60 liters of milk a month through Feed Ontario. So you have to be part of Feed Ontario to be able to receive those items.
Yeah, very interesting. Very interesting. So you said you had to have a food handler safety course. Is that the same course that a restaurateur takes? The same course?
Same course.
Okay, and who teaches that? I don't know.
It's done online, and there's several organizations. We get ours through Feed Ontario,
Right.
but there's also several other organizations that you can go to get your food handling course.
Okay. It is an extensive course. I know it's 2 days if you take it
Yeah,
not online. So
yeah.
that's interesting that it has to be the same course, and it's not a restaurant. You're not feeding the people.
When I took it, that's exactly, there was maybe 2 paragraphs through the whole thing that pertained specifically to us. But no, it's the same thing. And we require Feed Ontario, through our new standards, they do require that there's at least one person on each shift who is certified. So
Yes, no, it's a long course. I was certified. I am not at the moment, but plan on recertification. Now, you said 38% of the people come in are children. So the children walk through the door without parents?
Some,
Some do.
yeah, some. We have some young teens who do come on their own. But it's the children, it's the children who come in with their parents, or how many children they have in their households. That's what we have to keep a record of.
Okay, very interesting, and Nellie, my hat off to you.
Thank
This
you.
is a phenomenal thing you supply for the municipality. And if somebody wanted to donate to it, would they write the check to Meaford Food Bank?
Yeah.
So to the public out there, if you want to donate to the food bank, gratefully accepted,
To say the least.
Meaford Food Bank.
And not to say anything about other types of donations, but with cash, we can buy what we're short on. So it's, and like I said, our community is amazing. We get all our pet food from my friends sitting next to me, and all we have to do is call them and they bring us pet food. Our community is amazing.
It is, and we're all about strengthening our community. If our community was strong, we wouldn't need the food bank. So we do need the food bank. Please support it.
Thank you.
Nellie, thank you very much, and good luck.
Thank you.
We're going to approve the minutes from our last meeting. So recommendation that the minutes of the September 18th, 2024 meeting of the Strengthening Our Community Advisory Committee be approved as presented. Do we need a first and second motion on that? First, Angela and Rick, all in favor? Is there any thing wrong with the minutes as printed? I didn't see anything wrong with them, so we'll go for that. Number 6, items for information. Accessibility discussion and educating business in the municipality. Is that over to you, Sarah?
Thank you. And through the chair, thank you. Yes, it is through me. We were talking through our agenda setting meeting, and one of the things we had discussed in strengthening our community was the topic of accessibility. And as we were talking about that, we were all in agreement that the province had laid out for us a very clear timeline as to becoming compliant with accessibility. Well, I can tell you within research and talking to some experts way above me, the goalpost has moved somewhat in regards to the hard line, in regards to businesses becoming compliant with accessibility. They've moved it into tiers, into phased tiers. And the way it looks now, we're in the long-term phase of things. But now the timeline has moved on to the end of 2028. And that is to take into account the time lost through the pandemic, that folks were not able to do the necessary blitzes to ensure education and timelines. But when we were setting the agenda for this item, we wanted to start the conversation and maybe have some discussion around the horseshoe, around education for our businesses. Because one of the things, I also sit on the accessibility committee, and one of the common threads is that our businesses not all of our businesses, but a good portion of our businesses are not accessible to the community at large. And that some is not necessarily, all of the business's fault. They are renting, leasing space, and okay, so what does that mean for the owner of the building? Should it be their responsibility? Should it be the business's responsibility? And as we were talking about that, we just realized that I think this is a bigger discussion. We talk about strengthening our community. Well, that means the whole of the community, and accessibility is a key portion of that. And seeing about the flavor of this committee on whether or not we want to talk about becoming educated ourselves, versed in accessibility, and then looking towards maybe a program for our businesses to become compliant, to educate them on what would be required. It's not the doing it for them, because that's the common thread that I've gotten in just some of the research is, oh, you're going to do it for us. No, it's about educating them on what they need to do to become compliant, so that we become a stronger community, because then all of our residents are able to access all of our businesses. So just wanted to put it out there for some discussion.
Angela.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and through you. So, thank you, Sarah, for getting this conversation started. So when you talk about becoming compliant, that's becoming compliant with the AODA standards. Are any of these buildings grandfathered in? Is there an absolute requirement that they need to be, say, wheelchair accessible?
There was grandfathering that was going on from pretty much when this came into existence, from 2007 to where we sit now. But the phasing in of the requirement that all businesses, all buildings are going to have to become accessible. We're going through that right now at our museum. It's a very small space, but we have to make sure that as leaders of government, that we are making sure that it's accessible. So we've just recently put in a new doorway to make sure that everybody can come in through, no matter if you're coming in, walking in, or if you're coming in with a wheelchair. So it is one of those things that, we are going to have to become compliant.
Yes, Angela.
Thank you. And just a follow-up. So is there sort of a firm date as to when businesses will absolutely need to be compliant? And also, who polices that?
Thank you, and through the chair. Yes, so, sorry, can you just repeat the first question again, and then I can...
Firm date.
The firm date? Yes. So we did have a firm date, and that was January 1st, 2025. That the goalpost has shifted on that one, and they've moved to the tiered phased approach. So now there's just 2028 is an expectation. I haven't seen anything more concrete on that, so I'm not sure if they're going to give us a hard date. I would assume they're going to have to work towards a hard date, but that's an assumption, and I can't really say from that piece. From the policing side of things, it will be provincially led, that they'll be doing blitzes to first to help educate as well, but the next it'll be to make sure that there's compliance. And we just want to make sure that we can help, again, educate our businesses, so they're not coming to us saying, why didn't you tell us? Or why didn't we know? Or, instead of getting to that point where we become reactionary, that we're being proactive in helping our economy that way. Thank you.
Yes, Rob.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So not to be cynical, because the province is gonna do it. So how long before that gets downloaded to the municipality? Because that never happens. And I can totally see that being a bylaw issue eventually, which is really scary. It's funny when you travel, I was in Charleston and Savannah last spring. I was in, if you're anywhere in Europe, like the idea of accessibility is not even on. That's not even a word I think they understand, because there is nowhere, when I was walking around down there, I was literally looking, and there is no way that Canada is so far ahead in this kind of stuff. And yet it is going to be tough, because it's going to be so onerous on, I presume, the owners of the building, but they're going to download that to the renters, because just how many of our buildings are going to be so hugely affected by this. So this is a long-winded, Steve, say something, way of getting around to. So from an education perspective, really, what can we do? What should we be doing? Where are we going to go with this? Because at the end of the day, it's information dissemination, but unless there's a stick with literal monetary, penalties, people are going to go, yeah, keep kicking that down the road.
Through the chair. That's a very good question. And we really don't know. That's the piece of it. I really can't answer that. I can't give a really good good answer for that. I really can't, because it would just be an assumption and a guess.
And you don't want to assume. Well, I assume the reason it's being kicked down the road is they don't have the people to monitor it and implement it. Simple as that. That's going to take an army of people. They don't have them. So I'm guessing that's one big reason it's kicked down the road again. Yes, Nellie.
Through the chair, just from the food bank's perspective, I think education is such an important part of that. We always thought that we were accessible because we had an elevator, and then the elevator is great, but a scooter doesn't fit in the elevator. So then all of a sudden, anybody who's using a scooter can't come in. And then when if the scooter were able to come in, then they wouldn't be able to get into the washroom, whereas a wheelchair would. And so I think in that respect, education is extremely important. And I know Rotary House is doing a lot to try and figure out how to make the building accessible, but it's very, very difficult when you're in a building like ours. And not only that, we're both nonprofit. The food bank's nonprofit and Rotary is nonprofit, and where does that money come from? Like, if somebody has donated $1,000 to our organization, do I use that money when they're thinking that's going for food? Do I use that money to make a washroom wider? Those are just really big questions that the food bank has with regards to that.
Thank you, Nellie. Yes, Rick.
Through you, Mr. Chair. Sarah, what information, how does the province provide businesses? Obviously, they all obviously have a way of contacting. What message, what information are in detail are providing these people, and how often is that message shared? Is it, they just dropped the bomb, a while ago, and then just let it kind of sit there and hope that everybody just kind of starts to feast on that information and do something? Is there, this recent kind of moving the goalposts, was that basically some kind of a blitz of information that went out to all businesses? I can see that somebody's probably fallen between the cracks, some business that really is still not quite aware or understands. So be good to know what message and what detail is going out to everybody. I guess that might help if we have, there's some kind of a role or assistance we can provide. It's all good if we know what information they've been provided.
Yes, sir.
Through the chair, I am going to assume, again, it will be much like when I update myself on a new HR legislation that comes through. I'm the one doing the legwork on that. I am having to keep myself in the know as to looking for the information, keeping on top of the news. I will make the assumption for businesses, and maybe Angela can correct me if I'm wrong, I'm not sure, but that there would be communique of some sort that's coming to businesses to update them on changes that are happening within legislation that could potentially affect businesses. But I can't say that. Like I said, from my perspective, to keep myself current on any new bills that have been passed, so that I make sure that I'm able to keep the municipality, above the red. I'm having to do that piece. So I'm not 100% sure on what that education piece looks like from the province. But that's why I say, and I bring it here to this group for our own municipality, what we could do from this level. Because if it's much to what I'm assuming along the lines of how I keep myself in the know, the businesses are having to do that, which then in turn can potentially put them into a bad predicament. Like you're saying, do I take the $1,000 and spend it on food to hit 5 families, or do I do it to upgrade the washrooms to make them more accessible? That's something that we're going to have to drive as a lower tier to keep pushing for those answers so that we can help the businesses. Because if we can't help and provide education on that piece, a lot of businesses, you know, could go under. They don't necessarily have to have, you know, an HR person who's going to keep on top of those things. And so it's, you know, I think, you know, there could be potential for us to keep them notified through us.
Yes, Rob.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah. So I'm gonna harken back. The chair said, like, yeah, it's gonna take an army, which is why I truly see this eventually is gonna fall on municipalities' laps. Because they're gonna put it into the bylaw and say you have to do it locally, because you're right. Province isn't gonna go door to door. Now, I know Mary Sullivan happens to be on the accessibility and she's amazing. She is incredible. Not every municipality has a Mary that's gonna be doing this stuff. So when you said it, to your point, Rick, and what's really interesting is that if that AODA information is going out to every business, yeah, but businesses come and go out of ownership. So that business got the notice, they're out of business, another one comes in, they didn't get that AODA. So are they sending it to the landlords as well? Because without them having the information and having the responsibility thrust upon the owners of the building as opposed to the business, they're always going to be transient. So that's a problem. Coming around. So at the end of the day, accessibility is really championing this in our municipality. I know Mary is totally doing that. What can we do to assist that is at the end of the day, what this is all about. Because again, we've talked again about cross-pollination between advisory committees, between all committees that are out working towards a common goal of common good. What can we do to assist in that endeavor at the end of the day? Because that's what we need to do. Let's figure out what that is.
Yes, Angela.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, through you. So, sir, I think you've hit on a really interesting point. So we've been in business in Meaford for about 8 years now, and I don't remember ever receiving municipal communications about business matters, legislation changes, anything like that. So I know that there is a lot in the works in communications department and, you know, more of the transparency, more of the open conversations and things like that. So that could be another avenue for the communications people to take a look at how can we better speak with the businesses, because we've never seen anything like that.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, and through the chair. To just quickly touch on Rob's question statement, what we can do to help from this committee is it was really getting the flavor from the committee to see about, like you said, the cross-pollination of the work being done here, but also the work that's being done on the accessibility committee. So I think it really is going to take some brainstorming on that side of it from both to be able to look at working on that. And although Angela, I totally agree with you from the communication side of things, I think what we need to do is from this level, from this committee, is come up with an idea as to what that framework might look like. And then that's something I can take from here and we can bring that forward to council to let them know that this is what we have, you know, we have deemed helpful. It's, you know, we can give the position that it benefits both, you know, businesses, residents. It's hitting all of the buttons. That's just kind of how I see it.
So you're talking more than just accessibility. You're talking going out to the businesses with information on a variety of things?
No, starting with just accessibility. I mean, if this committee deems other things to come forward that we want to assist businesses with, absolutely. But for the topic of this conversation, it was solely based on the accessibility side and what we may want to do and what the businesses may want from us to help them in understanding what the requirements may be for them as we move to 2028.
So I don't think this committee should step on the accessibility committee's toes and go out there, I think we could work together. So Angela said she hasn't received anything from the municipality on bylaws and stuff. As a business person, have you received anything from the province on accessibility and the deadlines?
Not on accessibility specifically. The province does send out regular communications about like the new customs system that they have for bringing products across the border and things like that. Accessibility, I haven't seen anything specifically, no.
My question is, how are the businesses being brought up to speed on this? I'm not in business anymore, so I don't receive any of the mail. So that's a question I'd like answered.
Through the chair, I think that's exactly what the purpose of this conversation was, to show exactly this. Look at the gap that's sitting here and what's, that we're able to identify. And this could be a huge hindrance to our businesses. Doesn't matter where they are in the municipality. There could be a huge financial impact within the next 3 years to our businesses. So how do we want to address that? I think we are very lucky right now. And I say we because I do take it as a collective. If our business is hurt, we hurt as well. But that we've been given a little bit more lead time to help educate and get us to a compliance state that we can be proud of as well as leaders within our own counties and province.
Yeah, I personally don't want to push it off to 2028 and then bang. But we need to find a way, maybe the municipality, to get out to businesses and bring them up to speed on this. Bob?
Thank you. Yeah, and I think, so this was the same conversation we had at Growing Our Economy. It's great that we're sitting around this table having this conversation. And yes, I think you tend to be preaching to the converted in that environment. I think what has to happen is the same thing with Growing Our Economy. Actual tangible recommendations need to be going back to council so that things can happen at the next level, which ends up going to, the public, because we, Bill, I'm not sure, if we got 2 people watching, if my wife Ward today. If that's the case, whether we do it in support of accessibility, to be making a recommendation to council to say that, yeah, AOAD is coming down the pike in 28. We need to be ahead of that curve so that we're prepared, as Steve indicated. But without those official recommendations, it's just talk. Nothing gets to an actual actionable level. So and again, I'm not sure we're in a position right now to make any recommendation other than to say, recommending to the Accessibility Commission or Committee to be making a recommendation to council to say, let's make that an awareness policy within our municipality that needs to get out there.
So we could say that this committee supports
Yeah.
the accessibility committee to do that. I think that should be a start point. I don't want to do all that work. I think the work needs done. I don't want to do that and step on their toes. But I think we should put a letter of support out to the accessibility committee that this is what should happen.
Through the chair, that was my selfish plug for this, to be quite honest. So you have nicely just laid it out for me that's exactly where you want to go. I'm quite content with that. And now I can take that back to accessibility and say we've got a partnership here. Let's hit the ground running. Thank you.
Yeah, if you need anything signed, you just let us know.
Because do you want an official motion on that, so it's on record that the committee has done that? And if that's the case, I'll make the motion to recommend that we offer that support to the accessibility committee.
Yes, please.
Seconder on that? Nellie? All in favor? Participation. Okay, another question?
Just a suggestion, but I think it'd be interesting, important to involve the Chamber of Commerce in this conversation as well, because I don't know if that type of communication comes down from any level of government to their organization, but they are, kind of a bridge between a lot of the businesses. So I think that would be important too.
I completely agree with you. And that's where these committees are so important because exactly that, right? It's making sure that we get all the stakeholders mentioned so that we can make sure that everybody knows we can get the communication out to a broader range. So absolutely.
Thank you, and great idea. We don't need to change our motion. We can just add that in. Thank you very much. Any other questions or comments on this part of the business? No, then we'll jump ahead to the next one. Parks and Recreation status. We got a little half-hour, 45-minute presentation.
Through the chair, I'll just jump in here. So yeah, we do have Rick here, our new Parks and Rec manager. He is going to talk a little bit to where he's at right now and becoming knowledgeable in his new position and some of the items that he's updated himself on, but to also, again, much like we just talked about with AODA, is to start the conversation around some of the items that this committee may require or may want our Parks and Rec manager to begin to report on and things like that. So we just thought we'd open the floor to that, but I'll let Rick talk from here.
Thank you, everyone. Through you, Chair. Rick McNutt, Parks and Recreation Manager for the municipality of Meaford. Just in the short time that I've been in this position, I'm learning a lot of things are in the had been started to go. I'm obviously learning more and more of some of the things that are pressing, such as Sarah touched on, the AODA compliance for some of our playgrounds that we currently have in the municipality. Those are items that we're definitely looking at improving for our ratepayers, our citizens in this community. And I guess the biggest thing that I'm learning is there's a lot more to these areas than just trees and grass and there's a lot of loose ends that definitely need to be tied up and just make them more inviting to our citizens and more usable. So, but as far as facilities, we are currently undertaking AODA upgrades to various facilities that are within the municipality, and it definitely is an ongoing issue, and hopefully completing in the time frame that's set forth. But yes, it's just it's definitely a position that I'm not unfamiliar with. I understand the needs of the community, and just basically taking it all in and trying to focus on where our needs are and what needs to be addressed from the public engagements and whatnot. So.
Thank you, Rick. Any questions for Rick through the Parks and Rec? No? Thank you, Rick. Good luck. It's a bigger portfolio than people really think it is, isn't it?
Through your chair, yes, that's definitely an understatement. Again, you drive through the community and you look at the various parks and green spaces that the municipality maintains. What people fail to realize is that at the end of the day, it takes money and manpower to maintain these various areas. Currently, we have 18 active playground areas or park areas. and 56 green space areas that we would consider open to the public, but not fully accessible. So, oh, sorry.
Yes, Rob.
Just waiting for the official, okay. Thank you, Rick. And again, not to get down too much in the weeds, and I know we discussed this at actually, council level, I think last council meeting. We're just under the heading of inquiries. I'm just wondering where it is on your desk. We talked, you mentioned there are 18 kind of playground areas. One that comes to mind right off the top is the equipment lacking at Rapers Park, right? Rapers Park. And I just don't know whether that's on your kind of radar as a possibility becoming back. That didn't hit us actually in budget, but I think it was baked in, hopefully into the regular budget. So it wasn't there as an elective to kind of put stuff back down there, but just wondering if that's on the radar, because again, I think that's required. It would be nice to have down there again.
A great question, through you, Chair. That unfortunately, because of the high water levels that we experienced in the past few years, that just due to safety concerns, that playground was removed. But we are definitely looking at some point in the near future, looking at a plan to put playground equipment back in that location.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. If that's all for the Parks and Rec, we're going to go to committee inquiries. Have we got any inquiries and what we can maybe talk about next meeting, or you got anything on your mind, anybody? Yes, Rob.
Yes.
Thanks, Rick.
So we did, looking over last minutes, and we did talk about it, so I think we really should be determining who we want to present, because we did talk about Meaford Culture Foundation, Meaford Food Bank is already done, Rotary House, Tidbits, there was also, we mentioned the Meaford Long-Term Care Center, OPP, Crime Stoppers. So there's a number of people we could look at or listen to, or both. But I'm also gonna say, this came up as well. One thing I'm thinking that all committees as well should be involved with, and we discussed this as well, growing our economy, is PSAC. So from the aspect of community benefits packages, I've watched the PSAC meetings, and they've kind of been focused so far on the basic, oh, sorry, I'm talking through his mic. It's okay, Bill, don't worry. The one thing I would kind of like to see is, again, I think all committees should be touching on the community benefit aspects of the project in general. Because again, while PSAC is kind of gonna be on point on that, every advisory committee is gonna be dealing with stuff that relates to wish lists, requirements, necessities, etc. And I'm not sure PSAC should be left to be the sole kind of owner of that topic, because it is so large and so encompassing that we're all gonna have input, we're all gonna have wants and desires. So I just think that should definitely be on the docket for all the advisory committees, the community benefits package or portionality of it. So I just wanted to table that and see what everybody thought.
My thoughts are definitely,
Yeah.
it should be more than one committee bringing these community benefits forward along with council. I have a list. It's a very short list, but I'm not going to bring it forward right now. But maybe if that's something that we could talk about, we could bring it up and maybe pass on a recommendation from the committee to PSAC and or council. But I would be very interested in that. Would that be possible, Sarah, or in the future? Not tonight, not today.
through you, the chair. I would talk to, I'll talk to Alex about that.
Yep,
She's the one who kind of leads all the committees, so.
okay, thank you. That's good point, Rob. Yes.
We'll report out at our next meeting. We'll get those answers.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Nellie,
Through the chair, not to be naive, I'm not sure what PZAC is.
Sorry.
Pump Storage Advisory Committee.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Yes,
Well,
Rob.
I just think, just to give a total broad overview in case there is anybody public as well that isn't aware. So the TCE energy project. So again, just the community benefit oversight on that and just what that could end up benefiting the community long term. There are so many different aspects that goes into, so I just want to make sure that that's covered off.
Thanks, Rob. And like I said, the staff will get back to us whether we should even go down that road. I'd like to go down that road. Just going back earlier, Nellie, in your presentation, the recreation fund so far has been passed. We've got more budget talks. I hope it doesn't fall out. And just it hasn't been passed yet, the budget, but the splash pad looks like it may go forward in 2025. Just a couple tidbits. I hope we keep them in there, but the two things have been both passed at this time.
Thank you.
Yes, Rob.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I'll go back to Nellie as well. So what you had talked about it originally as well. It was what I found interesting was when you talked about food bank, but also being involved in recreational capacities. And Angela asked, and I'm sure for a specific reason, we both sit on the board of the Meaford Culture Foundation. So some of the programming that we actually do, we do look at trying to support in-need families in terms of programming, in terms of supporting, whether it's attendance to shows that they might not get the opportunity. So it's something, Angela, probably, we need to discuss as well at that board, just again, if there's anything, because we do get requests from bodies saying, can you help us funding whatever, show might be happening or something at Meaford Hall. But again, if there's some way that we can be kind of contributing, whether in the recreational, not necessarily funding, but whether it's ticketing or that kind of thing, we should look at that as well, our own body. Particularly Angela through community outreach does that stuff, so.
Angela.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And that is a really excellent point. So we do have our community outreach program with the Culture Foundation. And one of the things that we do is dance bursaries, for example, recreational. So we don't look at recreation like hockey and those types of sports, but we do look at things that are art specific. So we do have a few recurring students that come back to us every year for funding, and they go, I believe, to the Recreation Fund, the United Way. And if that's not enough to cover their year of dance, then they come to us for bursaries as well. So we'd be happy to have that conversation. If you have any of those types of kids that want to be in those types of arts and culture-based programming, summer arts camps, things like that too, we're happy to take a look at helping with that.
Yes, Nell.
Through the chair, just to make sure that everybody knows, the recreation funding through the municipality is very open. Meaning that it can be for cultural things, it can be anything, absolutely anything that is, I don't want to say entertainment, but that's an activity for a child or even for adults. The adults are also part of that. And so lots of children do get funding for cultural activities as well. So, and then it's going through the recreation fund.
Okay, nothing else for committee inquiries? Yes, Rick.
Through you, Mr. Chair, again, touching on budgets. Is there, without kind of again jumping into the nitty gritty of budgets and line by line stuff, is there anything potentially that might benefit an advisory committee in regards to a kind of a high level summary of the budget? Is there anything produced, any of the the departments produce any executive summaries of budget highlights that may be of interest to any of these committees? You know, obviously it's somewhat of a moving target as you discuss it, you know, from meeting to meeting, but you know, obviously when budgets are presented, there's probably some bullet points or highlights beyond just the regular operating day-to-day kinds of things that, you know, might be of value to give us kind of an indication of the direction or the way things are going.
Well, inside the budget, there is, most operation points that are brought up do have a bullet points. When you get to capital, every capital expenditure goes in depth on what they're doing and why and when and where. But if there's anything that really piques your interest, ask and we can maybe look at that. The document's 410 pages long right now. There's not a lot of in-depth stuff in there. In past years, it might have been 800 pages. But if there's anything that piques your interest, please ask and we'll get it for you.
Through you, Mr. Chair, you know, things that I would look at would be, say, you know, a presentation, obviously, you know, the trend or you know, this particular area is, you know, we're looking at investing more money to develop, you know, going in this direction versus what we've done in the past. You know, whether we're planning on, you know, bumping up in the area of, you know, say Parks and Recreation, so some of the programming initiatives. Yeah, and again, without going into the weeds, basically, I just wondered if in that process, how would one get a resident get a feel for the direction the budget's going through the process?
Well, that's a tough question, Rick. You can watch it. We've got a half day and 2 full days into it so far. It's all televised if you wanted to watch it and can follow along is a good way. It's intense and we've probably got 2 or 3 more days to go yet. So we're talking 40 hours going through the budget process. And you know, if you really want to get involved, it takes time. You got to watch it. And you can follow along. The budget is on the website. And again, any questions, you can ask any one of the counselors, they'll get you an answer. I know with recreation, they go into quite a bit of detail, like the swimming pool. We had a hard time getting lifeguards, so the YMCA is helping us out with that. It goes in, there's quite a bit of detail on recreation in the budget. But again, if there's any questions you have, feel free to ask any of the counselors. They'll get you an answer. Yes, Sarah.
There we go. I turned it back on. I was just gonna say, to your point, maybe once everything is said and done, given that this is strengthening our community, we could give a bit of a high level overview and bring it to this committee. So you know what projects are in the go, even though, you know, it will have been approved and will be going forward, but we could communicate to this committee what exactly, without you having to go through 410 pages, exactly where we're at. We can have that conversation.
Yes, I would definitely bring the budget to the committee and tell us the highlights of it. But again, like I said, one more time, if you got questions before we get through to that end, feel free to call. We'll get you an answer. Yes, Angela.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and through you. So I just have a bit of a question about the format of the meeting. So previously, in the last summer council, the advisory committee meetings would have a number of items on the agenda each meeting that were things that were going to be going to council for decision, parks master plans, for example. And we haven't seen that yet, but we're still, you know, very new into these advisory committees. But other than, you know, presentations and you know, higher level conversation, will we be having those items brought to us before they go to council agendas for our input? Will that be part of the format of the meetings moving forward?
Yes.
Through the chair, yes, definitely, because it would be the committees that are actually bringing it forward and then providing it to us, and then we would take it to council. Maybe I'm misunderstanding your
So
question.
previously, yes, sorry. So previously what the format was staff were working on a project that would be going to council for decision, but they would bring it to this committee first for input. And that input would be part of the report that goes to council for final decision. And I'd like to see, I think there's a lot of value in that in terms of, the volunteer hours from the advisory committees. And I'd like to see that format moving forward if it's possible to recreate that.
And quite often, the Parks Committee got the material before council because the council meets every week or every other week, where the committees met, every other month. So I see what Angela's asking about. And if there's anything going ahead in the Parks and Rec, that's a big part of this committee. We'd like to bounce it off us at the same time if it was possible, but it's usually beforehand.
Through the chair, I can't see that being a problem at all, because I think we'll be able to even talk about that at the agenda setting meetings that we have, to see if it's worth, everything is worthwhile to be bringing forward. But if it makes sense to bring it forward, we can have that at the agenda setting. So I don't see that being a problem at all, but let me look into that and I can definitely respond.
Like one thing would be the splash pad. We could go through that information. Fred Ripper Park with new equipment. We could discuss that beforehand, take it back to council. So that's sort of thing you're looking at, Ed?
Yeah, and even for example, I know the recreation fund will be going back to council for rework. So bringing the recreation fund policy to this committee in advance for our input on that, for example, too. And it's just input, right? But I think it is really helpful for council to see, okay, this is what the advisory committee has discussed and thinks would be, a good option. So yeah, all
Totally
of those
agree.
types of things.
I think so too. It's so relevant to the work that's being done at this committee to have that in front and to have that generate conversation.
Yeah. And because, Parks and Rec is a big part of our committee. So-
Absolutely it is.
So that'd be a great idea, and we can pass it through the authorities to be, that we can maybe have a look at things, because we only meet every couple of
Couple of
months
months.
to get out ahead of it. Anything else? Not for today? Well, then, communications. The committee will consider correspondence received by members of the public during each meeting. To share your comments, thoughts, or concerns with the members of the committee, the public can send an email to clerk@meaford.ca. When emails are received to this email address, they will be compiled into a correspondence list, which is then distributed to the committee members prior to the meeting. The cover sheet of the list will be included on each meeting agenda. The contents of the correspondence list are not included on the public agenda to protect the privacy and personal information of those residents who choose to send in their thoughts and comments. Thank you. There is no communications. Thank you. Date of our next meeting, do we have a date for that? Not yet. Yes. Okay, we will send that out to the committee. And if there's nothing else, I will call for adjournment. Thank you.